Hello guys, welcome to the channel Movies World Recaps. Today we are going to recap the movie Monstreous. So let's get started. At the beginning of the movie we see a lady who goes into the house and tells her son to wake up. It's time to wake up. Then she took his son in the car and they shifted to a new place. The woman's name was Laura. Then they went to the place where she met a man who owned the house where Laura would stay with her son. Laura then takes her son home to show him the room, but the boy doesn't like the room and wants to go back to the previous room where they used to live. But her mother Laura says, "No, you'll stay in this room because this is our new home." Then we see the child reach a nearby pond while playing, just as Laura, suspicious of where her son is, reaches the pond to find him and warns her son that the place is not good so that he will never come there again. In the next scene we see her son sleeping on the bed, and Laura sleeping on the couch. Laura dreamed that a monster came up in the pond, and dragged a woman there, and just then the boy was screaming for his mother, and that's when Laura woke up, and ran to her son. Then his son says that, "There is a monster next to that window." Then Laura says, "It's just a dream. I was also dreaming that there are no monsters here." After the scene we see Laura gets a call from someone. Laura picks up the call, and finds it's her husband. Her husband wants to talk to her. But Laura doesn't want to talk to her husband. Meanwhile, strange things were happening in the room, like the TV was turning off by itself, and the couch was cracked. Then again he got a call on his phone, and it was his mother's call. Laura says, "Have you told anyone that I am here?" Laura's mom says, "No, I didn't tell anyone, just your friends who cares about you." But Laura gets angry, and shouts, "How can you do this to me? Why did you tell them? Now my husband knows where I am because of you." Then we see Laura's son still scared of seeing the monster, while Laura takes a blanket over her head, and remembers her childhood, where she was reading a spell, and summoning the ghost. And then his grandmother comes in, and tells her that it wasn't as hard for me as it was for you. Then his grandmother asked him that the ghost did not come here. Then Laura says that ghost only comes to the basement, not here. In the next scene we see Laura calling a doctor. Laura tells the doctor about her medicine. She says she wants to continue her treatment. Then the doctor asks where Laura is, but Laura refused to give her a location. Then we see Laura going to the owner of the house, and saying that the house is out of sync, and the TV is turning itself off. Then the owner of the house says that the TV was left by those who were on rent earlier, so they will not bear the cost of the TV being bad or good. And then the kid's still in the room, scared of the monster, and he has a blanket over his face. And that's when the monster comes out of the pond, and into his house, because she wants to kill the child. Laura wasn't at home, she went outside, because it was windy outside. Then we see the monster trying to rip the boy to death, as the boy screams to be saved, but Laura can't hear. Later, when Laura comes near the house, she hears her boy's voice. She runs into the house, and finds the door locked. Laura doesn't understand how the door got locked. Then, breaking the lock of that door, and entering, seeing her son standing at the door, very angry, he told his mother, "I want to go back to the previous home." But Laura tells her son that you are not going anywhere, and that everything that happened was a dream. But Laura didn't understand her son's words, that her son was too scared. Later in the scene we see Laura herself go to spend time with her son. Then we see that the kid was drawing one day. He was drawing a lady. His mother asked, "Who is this?" Then the child said that, "This is the pond lady who lives in this side pond. I have spoken to her. She is very good and beautiful, and I understand her. Now I am not afraid to see her. You should also go to that pond and meet her." But Laura doesn't want to meet her, so she tells her son to go to bed. Then in a scene where Laura is sewing up the torn couch, that bursts open on its own, then she sees the pond lady monster behind her. Laura gets scared, and runs away, only to fall into the water, and go deeper. When she came out of that water, her whole body was drenched in water, but in the next moment, it all dried up by itself. Then she looks at his son, and her son says, "Have you seen Pond Lady?" Laura gets scared, and tells her son to go to sleep at his late night. In the next scene we see the kid telling his mother that the Pond Lady has arrived, but Laura wants to keep the Pond Lady away from her son. But as her son tries to open the door, we see the Pond Lady entering the room. Then Laura goes out with her son. Laura is very scared, but his son reassures her that nothing will happen, and there is no reason to fear. Then they spend the night in the car. On the second day we see Laura goes to pick up her son from school, when some kids look at the teacher, and point at Laura. Then Laura asks her son, "What did you do to them? Why are they pointing like this?" Then the kid said, "I didn't do anything." Then Laura says, "I will wait for your complaints call." Then Laura went home, and saw that the owner of the house was searching her house. Then Laura said to her owner, "Do you suspect that I have took drugs?" But as the owner of the house says to Laura that you said there is a problem in the house, but there is no problem in the house, I gave you 1 month, then you have to leave the house. In the next scene we see that Laura is really taking drugs and smoking, which she has been hiding from everyone for so long. Just then her son was going to the pond, where he had gone first. Then Laura saw her son, and she ran after him. Just then her son says, "I'm ready to go," and starts to approach the pond lady. Just then Laura sees him from behind and jumps into the pond to save him because that pond lady was taking him with her. Then Laura saves her son, and now he is so scared that he resigns from his job because they find out she is addicted to drugs. In the next scene, Laura goes to school to pick up her son, but like every day, her son is not waiting for her. She panics, searching for him. Just then a police officer arrives, and Laura tells him everything, while everyone starts searching. Then we see a female police officer approach Laura, and say, "We can't find your boy. Actually her son died a year ago," but Laura couldn't believe it. When the police officer asks to tell the whole story, Laura says that one day she went to the kitchen to get grocery items, when she realized something was wrong with her son. Then she jumped into the pond and saved her son because her son was drowning, and after lifting him out of the pond she gave CPR treatment, and then the ambulance came and took him away. But Laura did not believe that her son actually died. She said that after giving CPR treatment her son was fine. But for so long, Laura was in the world of illusion. She could not accept the truth. Then we see Laura asking the officer for water. When the officer leaves, Laura runs away. Then when he came out he was in a city. The next scene shows that Laura goes to the secluded place where she was with her son, and starts looking for her son, and finally she finds him on the dining table. Then the boy says to Laura that, "Mom, I want to leave here." Then Laura says that, "We will shift to a new house, you have no reason to fear, now I am here." Just as Laura is about to take her son away, her son pushes her away. The pond lady comes in, things fall all over the house and horror ensues. The monster comes in front of Laura, and instantly disappears. Laura tells her son, "Don't leave me." Her son tells her, "Whatever happened is not your fault, now I have to go back to my house, you can't stop me for long, you have to accept the truth." But still Laura tries hard to stop her son, but his son now wants to get away from her. We see in the next scene that Laura takes her son to the pond where the pond lady lives. Then the pond lady comes out from there, but now she is not a monster but a beautiful woman. And his son used to tell him that the lady was more beautiful. Laura then gives her son's hand to the lady, and the lady takes her son to the pond. We see in the final scene that Laura finally recovers from the trauma, and accepts the death of her son, and moves into the house where she used to live. And here the movie ends. Thanks for watching, we will meet on the next recap. Subscribe the channel for more recaps and also keep supporting.